What is good people? You are now listening to another episode of Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. I am your humble narrator, Danny Foxworth, and once again, we're joined by an extremely special guest. She's built on hope. She's a dreamer, mom droid, advocate, intuitive creative, poet, podcaster, woodworker extraordinaire. She's got her hand in a whole lot of pots, and we're going to get into all of that. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we have the one and only Katie Thompson in the building tonight. Katie, how are you?
Oh, Danny, thank you so much for having me. I'm just so honored to finally make it to the podcast. I just love your energy and I've followed you for several years now.
Oh,
So I'm
thank
really
you. The
honored.
pleasure is all mine. So, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the convo, I wasn't privy to you having a podcast. So, let's talk about that. The Chronicles of a Dreamworker podcast. How did that podcast come to be?
Well, I'm a dreamer. I've been a lifelong dreamer and storyteller, and I've also gotten into lucid dreaming. I didn't realize that was what was happening when I was doing it until I talked to another intuitive, and they're like, "Yeah, you're lucid dreaming. Like you can control a lot in your dreams. It doesn't. I can usually tell the difference between a regular dream and then a lucid dream. I feel like I have a lot more engagement in a lucid dream versus a regular dream. It feels like it's kind of happening to me. So I don't know. I just had these crazy vivid dreams, and I would wake up and tell my husband, and he's like, "You've got to write these down. Like, he was like, if anything else, these are just like great science fiction stories." And I was like, you know what? That's a good idea. So, I just this past spring was like, I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to start like a little mini podcast and share this journey as I learn with other intuitives. And it's been a lot of fun. I've learned so much about myself. I feel like my spiritual practice, even my mental health. It's just completely changed my life. So I love doing the podcast. I'm hoping to do more with it as I expand my own, spiritual practice
Awesome.
too.
Awesome. So, when did you start?
I think my first episode was in April of this year, but before that, I actually created the Women of Woodworking project way back in 2015. And that started out as a series of written interviews, but then over the pandemic, we were like, hey, let's hop on live, let's connect on Instagram. And every week I was interviewing another female or non-binary woodworker from around the world. We had people from South Korea, we had woodworkers from Australia and the UK join us. So I feel like I have a little bit of background. I'm actually going from woodworking into lucid dreaming is like the wildest jump, but hey, I've got to do what I feel like I've got to do. So I've always loved stories, and I love interviewing people and learning their stories, but I feel like I've got to share too.
I
So
love
that's
it.
my
And
way
I
of doing that.
remember because I remember you used to always do your IG lives on Sundays, right?
Yes, yeah. I used to do lives on Sundays, and they moved to Wednesdays, and then it was just like basically it was like what my kids would let me. They
Got you.
dictated my schedule. So
So
yeah,
now let's take it
yeah.
all the way back to the beginning. So what was life like for a young Katie?
Whew. Lots of moving. Both of my parents worked in healthcare, and just due to like the nature of my dad's job, every 3 to 5 years, go to another contract, go to another place, a whole new town, a whole new community. And so I was actually born and spent the first half of my childhood in Texas and then moved to South Carolina. I believe I was 10. I moved to the upstate in Lawrence and went to Thornwell High School, a tiny little high school up there, and just a little town called Clinton. Clinton, you gotta pronounce it the right way. I hope I still pronounce it the right way, even though I don't live there. But I graduated high school, and I actually went to college right across the street. I went to Presbyterian College for two
Ah,
years and had some life-changing experiences there that eventually brought me to Charleston. And so I transferred and graduated from the College
go
of Charleston,
Cougs.
go Cougars, in 2009. So yeah, so that's the long story of it. Um, I was telling my husband we've been in our home now for over 10 years, and I think this is the longest I've ever lived in one like building, one place. And it really does feel like home. So I was super active. I was always really creative, way too opinionated for my own good. But I think that persistence, and just I just always knew things, if if something could be better, or if something wasn't quite right, I just could never just let it sit like that. I could never just, and I don't know. Vibrant. That's a good way to describe
Okay,
my
I
my
love it. I
childhood.
love it. So woodworking, what got you into that? Because that's not something that I'd see creeping down my timeline all that often. And I was like, wow, that's awesome that you've taken to this craft and you've honed this craft and you put out such tremendously impressive woodworks. Like I'm super curious as to how you got into that.
Well, excuse me, I can thank my husband for that. He is the true master woodworker. And so when I graduated College of Charleston in 2009, I was actually working for the city of Charleston. I had done an internship and then actually became, an employee helping to manage the farmers
Oh
market in
wow.
Marion Square. And in a perfect rom-com, plot right out of a movie, Joseph, my husband, became a vendor. And so that's how we met. And at the time, I majored in communications. I really enjoyed marketing. I had a lot of experience in social media from just being on it and just being really interested in it. And that was really when people were starting to utilize it for business purposes or fundraising, or people were really starting to discover what we could do with these tools. So it was a scary but exciting time to kind of be going into a new field. But when I met Joseph, he was woodworking out of an old shed he had converted into a furniture shop. And he had a Hotmail email address, no website, no social media or anything. So how he kind of got me in was, he hired me to help him and get a website going, and get business cards and all that sort of stuff. And I really loved art growing up. I was pushed to do sports and things like that in high school more than taking like a creative art class. I did do some theater and choir, but I love to draw. I love that aspect of storytelling too. It was like this, a whole new like field I was discovering of like these symbols and colors. They can all mean things like words do, and it was just I anything creative. So he caught me at a really good time, because I would not have guessed woodworking either. And it wasn't until I got in the shop with him and seeing his passion for it, and just he has an integrity in his personal life and his professional life that I just greatly admire. And I feel like every day I'm trying to create up to that standard that he has set. I know he'll probably smile whenever he hears that, but he really has been my mentor and has taught me so much about woodworking. And during that time, it gave me also the space to mess up, to make some really bad stuff, and to figure out what I wanted to make. So in 2013, I launched my own studio, Black Swamp, and I started out making jewelry from scraps from his
Wow.
furniture pieces. So he would build a chair, I would make a pair of earrings or something out of it to match it. And because it was, I would see his process, and I was really inspired actually by the waste. It was just these shavings and offcuts are so beautiful, and most people just throw them in the burn pile. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. We still got more we can do here. And so that's where I really started discovering my own voice in woodworking, and did that for a couple of years. And then College of Charleston hired me. I think it came out in 2017, was the Cistern Oak collection. We had a historic tree fall on, campus in the Cistern, and they contacted me and were like, hey, would you be interested in, making a few things, for a fundraiser for student scholarships and alumni services. And I was just like completely blown away. And it's just been like so near and dear to me to think back when I was in college and like trying to find my voice, and for it to like come back full circle, and that be the place that really it was my first like real official collection, the sister note collection. So it's been a wonderful experience. And so now I write about woodworking a lot. I have a lot of health issues that complicate things, but I still have to be involved somehow. And I serve on the board of trustees for the Furniture Society. We're a national nonprofit dedicated to advancing the art of furniture making and doing a lot of scholarships and educational opportunities, doing a lot of virtual programming, and then hopefully doing some in-person programming this upcoming year too. But yeah, for my own personal work now, I'm spoiled. I only like to work with woods that have a story. So unless it's like super personal to someone or it's historic, I'm very selective on the type of woodworking projects that I take on. But I do still assist my husband with. I still manage the website, and he does check his own email now. Though we at least got that going.
So, what was the first woodworking art that you said, and when you finished, you said to yourself, I'm super proud of myself how this turned out."
Oh, took a while. um, I think the first thing I really enjoyed was turning. Actually, the wood turning is again, it's like own little like subsection of woodworking that you could just people do make entire careers on. And I just really enjoyed working on the lathe. I like the fluidity of it. Um, I have a real love-hate relationship with wood because for me it's so beautiful and I see so much possibility, but there are very real limitations that that material presents. And that's part of the beauty of it is working with it. But sometimes I'm like, I just want this to do what I want it to do. And I don't want to, have to do a million things to get it to the shape that I want it to be. But turning allowed me to, again, to really sculpt. And I like that aspect of it. So I'm trying to see if it's up there. It's in the way back is a candlestick holder that I made. I would not sell it to anyone or, do anything else with it, but it's just a little piece that it stays in like my little collection. And then up right there is actually a little miniature podium. Joseph and I designed and crafted this podium for a school in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And so that was the first like joint project with him that I was like, all right, you got me hooked. So.
Nice, nice. So now I want to talk about your spinal injury. I know you mentioned something about having a disability. So I'd love to talk with you about that and just share with the people what happened.
Yeah, so when I was 18, I was a freshman at Presbyterian College. And like I said, I was super active growing up. I played three sports in high school. I mean, I loved to run. I was the girl diving after the ball, getting technicals on the basketball court. That was me. Um, but I don't know. It was January of, my second semester, my freshman year. I had gone to the campus gym that day. I just did like 20 minutes on the elliptical, something super light for me at that age. And got off the machine, went back to my dorm, sat down, and was at my desk for a little while. And I got up to take a shower, and my knees kind of buckled underneath me. I almost went to the ground, and I just had excruciating pain in my back and legs. And it was like unlike anything I'd ever experienced before, athletic injury or anything. So, um, long story short, ended up getting imaging done, and I had herniated a disc that was compressing
Mm.
60% of my spinal cord. So, as young as I was and the symptoms that I was having, I ended up having surgery. And then 2 weeks after that surgery, I ended up contracting bacterial meningitis. And that is the disease that still dominates my every waking moment of my day. It is a terrible disease. It is very rare. I'm sure a lot of us have been like, oh, I heard a girl on college, our college campus had it. Well, that was me. Meningitis is a very, very real illness that has very real consequences, especially bacterial meningitis, which was the kind that I had. So over the period of 6 months, I think I had 8 different hospital stays, I think 4 different surgeries to try to, deal with everything
Wow.
that was going on. And it got really bad. They told my parents to prepare themselves to have to like bury me.
Oh my
And that was
goodness.
just like, it's, I, don't remember everything, but like I remember coming to, it was like after 2 weeks of being like near comatose. I remember coming to and realizing how much time I'd lost. And I was like, the world's different now. I said, I didn't go anywhere, I didn't do anything, but my world is completely different now. And it was. And, but, like I said, I'm real tenacious. So within a few months, I was back taking summer school classes, trying to get back to it and just trying to live as normal as I possibly could. I didn't appear to have a lot of long-term after effects at that time. There's still so much we don't know about meningitis as far as like, is it a progressive disease? Does the damage that happens, does that continue? Does that continue to affect the nervous system? And it appears that in my case, it does. I've continued my spinal cord and has continued to demyelinate. So over time, the symptoms have increased. It started with migraines, vestibular issues, and then eventually became mobility issues. And now I've used a cane for off and on for several years, but I started using an electric wheelchair in 2019, and that was not as hard of a jump as I thought it was going to be. I think once you're really struggling and you find these tools that help, you're just like so grateful. But it's just been a lot. But I started doing more advocacy surrounding meningitis in my story, particularly in 2019. It took me a long time to be like, okay, this is my moment to start sharing about it. But since I have, I mean, again, it's completely transformed my life. And in a lot of ways, meningitis has brought me so much more than it took away. I have the dearest friend, Allison Johnson Miller. She actually lives in the upstate of South Carolina, lost her son Keegan at 17 to it. And hearing stories like that, or it just is like, I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a reason. Keegan is not here to share his story. I am here, whatever opportunity I can to say, hey, like you need to be aware about this. You need to try to prevent this. Talk to parents, talk to young people. And that's the other thing is the majority of victims are children. They're our youngest, and there are infants and our adolescents. And it's just so horrific. I wouldn't, anything I could do to spare someone from doing that. Like I said, if my worst enemy got it, I wouldn't wish it, on them. It destroys families and it destroys lives. So I feel very fortunate to be here to be able to share that. So thank you for giving me a chance to
Absolutely.
speak
And
on
that
that.
that answered a lot of questions that I had, and I'm sure that a lot of my listeners had as well regarding meningitis. So thank you for being so transparent. I greatly appreciate that. So now I
Hmm.
want to get into
Absolutely.
your poetry. So when did you get the poetry itch?
Oh, I again, like that was something I did as a kid too. Like moving around a lot. I remember in fifth grade, that was when we made the big transition from Texas to South Carolina. And that one was really hard on me. That was like the last big one. And my elementary school had a writing contest every, 6 weeks. And sometimes it was poetry, sometimes it was short stories. And I just found a lot of comfort in that. I was able to like find something that felt like home to me in writing those stories. And so I just have always loved writing poetry. I've always loved reading poetry. But then you get to being a teenager and like poetry is not very
Right.
cool when you're a teenager, you know? So I kind of backed away from it. And then going through, the meningitis and the spinal injury and everything, I felt very creatively blocked for a while. I felt like it was going to take me a lot of effort, a lot of emotional effort to be able to tap into what I needed to write poetry. And finally, this past year, I was like, I feel like I've healed enough. I feel like I know myself enough. I know what I want to say enough. Um, that I just started writing and posting it. And then I guess, a long-term goal of mine, I would love to publish a book of poetry, whether that would be centered around my experiences as a disabled woman, whether that would be just, more creatively based. I don't know. Everything I do is gonna center around hope, but also exploring the reality of the shadow. You can't have hope without, having to go through the darkness and having to find that light. And to me, having gone through that, I can see the beauty in that entire journey and see the beauty in the darkness. And that's something else that poetry allows me to do, like in a safe way, is like explore these like really big, complicated feelings. If I'm really angry about something or if I'm really sad about something, I can just, write some poetry about it. And not everything makes it out. And that's the great thing about it, is like I can just write words on the paper. And sometimes I'm like, that is amazing. And other times I'm like, that needs to go in the
Yeah.
garbage can. So you never know. But I'm really excited, and I'm really honored to be a part of an upcoming poetry show, Youthful Curiosity. That's October 17th at the Cannon Street Arts Center, with the Free Verse Poetry Festival. So it's being put on by Marcus Amaker and Mauro Demaro. And I just look up to Marcus and his work so much. Like, I honestly cried when I got the acceptance email. I was like, okay, like this is it. This is real. Like I've done it. It was reaching that goal was just like so huge for me. So I'm really excited to go, and I'm sharing 2 new original poems, both centered on childhood wonderment. One is about my experiences being a young person, stuck in a hospital, stuck watching life going by, and wanting to be a part of it. And then the other one is, again, about realizing that you can't be anything other than who you are. And I think we try to fight that, like some of us want to belong, we want to have friends, we want to have groups, we want to have community. And so I think a lot of times we tend to compromise parts of ourselves, or we just get too busy and put them, for whatever reason. And that poem was really about me breaking through those creative blocks that I had, again, like in college and in my early career, and just accepting like I am who I am. And so I'm really excited about that show, and getting to share those poems. And there's going to be some other incredibly talented artists on stage with me. I'm just going to pack the tissues, because I'm sure it's going to,
And that's
hit
great
me.
that you brought that up, because that was actually in my notes about this upcoming event. So you beat me to the punch. So
Yay.
with that, we're
Oh
going to
yeah.
get into the 5 question segment. So the first and last question are the same question I ask every guest I have on here. And questions 2 through 4 are 100% random. So question number 1, what were Katie's go-to school lunch items?
Oh, I like the square pizza. I was square pizza,
Mm-hmm.
chocolate milk. That was a must. And hmm, if I had to bring a lunch, I was a Lunchables
Yeah,
kind of,
you can't
in my younger days. So I know nowadays it's not as healthy,
you
but
can't go wrong with the
you know,
Lunchables.
I know. And the square pizza, I know that's like such a generic answer, but
Yeah,
you like what you
that was
like,
one of my go-to lunch items as well. So yes.
every Friday.
Question number 2, what's your favorite restaurant in Charleston?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Um, well, when she was open, I love Dell's.
Yeah.
I gotta give a shout out to Dell's, for sure. But right now, hmm, I'm trying to think. It's like a chain Greek place. Maybe it's Athenos or something like that. Um, there's one in Somerville, but it's just a good value. Like, I love Mediterranean food. I love a good buy, and I like healthy food. It's hard to find like healthy food that you can just like pick up and like take and go. And like, I usually get this like huge falafel bowl, and it feeds me for at least 2 meals. So that's one of my favorites. And I guess like, I'm trying to think like if there's like a classic one that I really like lean
Is
on
Cairo
to.
is I'm
But
sorry, is
no,
Cairo's the name of that Mediterranean place? I know
that's
exactly what you're
it.
talking about.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes. No, I worked at too many restaurants in college to like any of them anymore.
Question number 3. What was your favorite class at College of Charleston?
Oh, hmm. I really enjoyed media criticism, even though I really didn't do good on my last paper. I did fine. I'm still, it's one of those things that like irritates me even 20 years later. Um, I just really liked it, changed my perspective on how to like view media more objectively. And, we engage with entertainment we so badly like want to get sucked in and just tune out, and then it showed me there's a completely different way to observe and analyze, and there's messages in examining what the auteur signature is of a piece, or like what a series of films can mean, or even just what an intro to a television show, like setting the tone, like that just really enraptured me. And I'm a big history buff. I love history classes. Um, I learned a lot from the history professors at the College of Charleston. There are some fantastic history professors there. So I really enjoyed that. And there was a class called The Art of Creativity that I really enjoyed and took as well, which I still have some of those books back there too. Yeah, you can see a theme there.
Awesome. Question number 4. What's one piece of advice that present day Katie would tell 16-year-old Katie?
Put down the spray paint can. um, oh gosh, it gets better. Keep working hard. Like it does. It's hard when you're young. You are working really hard, and you're like, "Well, what is all this for?" And now looking back, I'm really glad that I did. I'm glad that I fought as hard as I did and didn't get expelled.
That's important. And last question. What was the last thing that really made you laugh?
Oh, I am just getting into Marvel, and I really love the show Agatha All Along. Oh my gosh, it's just like there's a new episode last night, and I think I felt every range of emotion in like 5 minutes. But the writing is is genuinely so funny. It's starring Catherine Hahn, who is just phenomenal. Of course, Patty LuPone, like her sense of humor, me and her are like, I love her sense of humor. Very raw, very honest. But that show, it's just one particular episode. They've really had to like work together to kind of overcome these trials, and the characters are typical like more they're witches, so they're supposed to be kind of like loners, not really
Right.
work good with others type situation. But and Sashir Zameda is on there, and her comedic timing is just it's impeccable. Like I laugh at her at least once in every single episode. So I've been really enjoying that show. And either that or something ridiculous my kids have done, probably.
All right. So anything you want to plug or promote, the floor is all yours.
Gosh, I share a lot of my artwork and my poetry. I share a lot of mini poems over on my Instagram, my studio Instagram, and that's at Black Swamp Co. I also have a personal Instagram where I share a lot more of like my health journey, more of my advocacy work, some family pictures, travel, stuff like that. So if you're more into that type of vibe, you can follow me there. My website is ktthompson.com, and you'll find links to my Chronicles of a Dreamworker podcast, my studio, and all of that good stuff there. If you're in the Charleston area, I would love for you to join us at Youthful Curiosity on the 17th. It's just going to be so great. Tickets are only $10. It is a pretty small venue from what I know, so I'm excited. It's going to be a very intimate show. And I just want to say thank you so much, Danny. I've had such a good time. I've been looking forward to this all
Me
day.
too.
In fact, the kids are out frog hunting right now. I was like, y'all have to go because I got to focus.
Oh man, thank you so much for being on. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Seriously.
Oh,
And
thank you,
thank you all for
Danny.
listening. Make sure you like, download, and subscribe to Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube page. You can find me at Danny Foxworth 843. There you can find all the videos for this podcast as well as my baseball podcast, which is At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. My relatively new podcast, Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny, where Liz and I, talk about growing up low country. And then I have another podcast about candles called A Wicked Good Time, which I just released an episode for that. So you can find all the videos for all those episodes at my YouTube channel at Danny Foxworth 843. And for Katie and myself, this has been another episode of Since We Last Spoke. And until next time, y'all be good. Peace. All right.